Hello, and welcome to Tarot Closet Reflections, where we discuss spirituality and tarot for the low key and undercover. I am your host, Hawthorne. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me once again on Tarot Closet Reflections. So, continuing on in this series that I'm doing called Into the Shadow, where I talk about kind of spooky, spiritual related things. Today's topic is about pendulums, and by popular demand, my brother is back.
I don't know about popular demand, but okay.
Shh, I'm trying to hype you up, bro. My brother is back to kind of talk with me about pendulums and what they are, the history of pendulums, and all of that jazz. So, the history of pendulums, let's get briefly into it. So, pendulums and dowsing rods have been used for centuries by many cultures. I don't know if you know, bro, but there are even cave paintings dating back as far as like late.
That's actually cool.
I know, showing people using like sticks and stuff, and a dowsing rod, if you're unfamiliar, it's a piece of a wooden tree. It's a particular type of wood, and they use it to aid in finding underground water. And from there, pendulums have turned into how we see them today, as the typical chain with a stone and at the bottom, usually metal or like semi-precious stone. One of the most widely known facts about pendulums and information comes from Eastern cultures. There was an emperor, I forget what his name is, hold on. There was an emperor in ancient China who worked heavily with pendulums, and he used them to map out the seismic geography of China and find like where fault lines and stuff were, and to help him predict when earthquakes were coming, stuff like that.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I just read this in the amazing Venerable Winds book. The Craft of Taoism. I just read it and I'm so mad that I can't remember the name.
What name?
Of the Emperor.
Of the Emperor?
Yes. This was like a whole chapter in the book.
How dare you forget? How dare you? I'm trying to like quickly scroll through my notes. I thought I put his name in my notes, but apparently not. But it's also been known that the Queen of Sheba, she used pendulum work. Used pendulum work. As some of you may know, she was a very powerful and influential queen from Africa, and she was known for her spirituality and divinatory works. She was married to the King of Solomon. I don't know. So yeah, just some interesting tidbits. Anything you have to share about like the history of pendulums?
You pretty much covered all of it, honestly.
Yeah. Pendulums, as I mentioned, basically today they are used for divinatory purposes. Pendulums are believed to pick up on the energies that surround us, and those energies, some people believe are spirits, some people believe that is our own energy. What do you believe?
I believe it's a combination of both. I feel like the spirits, at least in my experience, kind of tap in and pick up on your energy too, and it affects your reading.
Yeah.
Like it's a combination of both.
A combination of both. Okay. So how would you say you use pendulums in your practice? Like, What do you use them for? When would you say you'd use them?
Um, Obviously, I use them for like simple yes or no questions,
Mm-hmm.
but also I know I use because of the stone I have.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's clear quartz, right?
Yes.
Um, I often use it. I'll carry it around for like protection as well,
Okay.
and I also use it to like again talk to the divine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Me personally, I'm very practical in my pendulum work, I guess. I don't really, I mean, I'll ask it yes or no questions every once in a while, but my most favorite way to use my pendulum is to help me find something that I've lost. I have to be 100% honest, and it works 80% of the time, actually more
It
than
really
that.
does.
It's the best thing
I
ever.
forgot how much we use it for that.
Like, you lose your keys, and basically you'll take out your pendulum, and you'll go from room to room asking your pendulum, is the pendulum is my keys
In
in
this
this
room.
room? And then you pay attention and let's see which way it swings. If it swings yes, cool, then I'll keep searching. But if not, then I'll move on to the next room. And I mean, it literally cuts down searching for something like in half.
It really does.
Like, it's wonderful. So with pendulum work, how, if you're talking to somebody, never use a pendulum, how do they get started? What should they do? How can you tell what's yes or no for your pendulum? You know.
So it's very easy. Like if you don't want to like go out and buy an actual crystal, you can like make one yourself,
Yeah, using a necklace or
or
something.
like take a ring and like tie it with some string, and that works too.
Yeah.
But pretty much, you take your new pendulum and you take it on a date.
Take it on a date.
Yeah, you set up your little altar, put some well, this is at least how I did it. Put some candles up, and then you sit there and ask it like, "Hey, like, yes, show me yes and no, what's no, and all that stuff." But then I go in and ask it like, "What are you like good for? Like, are you good for these type of readings?" And then if it says yes or no, then it gives you like clear grounds and basis on like maybe like doing like divine work is like good for this, but using to like hunt down my lost keys, it's not going to give you the most accurate like results for that, you know.
Oh, so you kind of like have a little interview process
Yeah,
with your pendulum. Oh.
yeah.
That's actually a really good idea, actually. I might have to borrow that. That I never thought about asking the pendulum other questions besides like show me yes, show me no, show me unsure. Um I know when I first get a pendulum, I like to ask that it those questions, but whenever I pick up my pendulum in general, I always ask it show me yes, no, and maybe, because the one that I have, like, it sometimes it changes which way it wants to
Yep,
swing
it
and
does.
everything. So, and then two, I always ask my pendulum, do you want to work with me today?
Yeah.
And so depending on if it says yes or no, then we'll proceed to whatever we're doing, and stuff. And then one thing that I always believe is, like, if you pick up your pendulum and it feels weird, then something's up.
Yeah.
Smudge it, sage it,
Mm-hmm.
throw it in a salt bath, depending on
I
the
think,
crystal that you
yeah,
have.
because like you can't give it a moon bath. Like some crystals, you dump it in that moon bath water,
And
and
it'll dissolve the crystal.
yeah,
But, do whatever you need to do to cleanse a question. Also, something that one of my friends told me is that she always asks her pendulum, will you ever lie to me?
I never thought about that.
And she says, okay, it just depends on how much you believe in like other spirits and stuff, but she says that lower spirits that like to mess with humans and stuff that aren't good, she says that lower spirits like that are bound to answer that question truthfully. So I don't know. I don't know, but low key, if I ask my pendulum that question and it says yes, I don't care what I believe. I'm she's going. She's going. Like I am not trying to mess with all that, but yeah. So I mean, I guess when you choose your pendulum or whatever, do you think about the crystal or whatever that it's made out of when you choose or pick a pendulum? Like, if you're going into a crystal shop or whatever or something and they have pendulums, like how would you decide, okay, this one feels right?
I mean, ultimately for me, it's like, I guess the energy I get from the crystal.
Uh-huh.
Like if I pick it up and I feel like, oh, we can kick this off, this is good, then I'll probably go into and like look into like the crystal and like what it might be good at, because like that, and when I actually go and ask the question like, what are you good at, it doesn't always line up.
Yeah.
I feel like the crystal type, it's just like
a generic generalization.
Yeah. And like each crystal kind of has its own personal energy that can vary from like what
the traditional meanings, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have any interesting stories with using your pendulum, or no, not really?
Not, I kind of use it for like mundane things, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. I mean, something that I'd like to kind of look into and is like getting a pendulum board.
Same.
Or whatever. And if you don't know what a pendulum board is, it's basically a board. Usually they're circular, and on it as like radii. And at the end of those radii through the circle is like a letter or a number or a symbol or whatever. And you basically hold your pendulum above it and you'll ask it a question. And, depending on which way it moves, it'll spell out a word or something like that.
I also know there's like branches of like pendulums that I want to like learn into. Like I know people used to use them for like exorcisms and all that stuff, and like cleansing and like getting rid of like bad juju or bad spirits or whatever.
Yeah.
And I want to start getting into that because that seems so badass to me for some reason. Like just whip out your little crystal boy and be like, bam, get out of here.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I do know people use like crystals to check their chakras to see which ones, blocked, or if their specific chakra is cleared, but I don't really have much experience with that. So
Same.
Yeah. Anywho. Yeah. I guess that is basically all I have to say about pendulums and pendulum work. Let us know in the comments on my Instagram page. Have you ever worked with pendulums? Is that something you're interested in working with? How do you work with your pendulum personally? Yeah, I'd like to know. Continue the conversation. Thanks for joining me, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being here. And I hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.
Once again, I'd like to thank you for joining me on Tarot Closet Reflections. If you have any questions or would like to connect with me further, you can look for me on Instagram at tarot_closet_reflections. There I'll often post my daily tarot draws as well as other topics related to tarot and spirituality. I'd love it if you'd connect with me and comment down below. Share with me any ideas or tips that you might have to better this podcast. As with anything, I hope that this podcast will spark some discussion. perhaps answer any questions or give you useful advice in your own spirituality or tarot practice. As with anything, take what resonates and leave the rest behind. I am your host, Hawthorne. Have a wonderful day or evening.